ไอเดียมาอีกค่ะไอเดียมาอีกอย่าหยุดค่ะมีอะไรบ้างโอเคดีมากค่ะที่ dtac พวกเราทุกคน
มีเป้าหมายเดียวกัน
ที่จะไม่หยุดเพิ่มพื้นที่ให้บริการทุกวัน
ครับฟังไม่ครับไม่หยุดทำเทคโนโลยีให้เป็นประโยชน์กับชุมชน
ไม่หยุดมีรอยยิ้มให้กับทุกคนคมชัดค่ะเพื่อนจะดูแลคุณให้ดีที่สุดค่ะ
สัญญาว่าจะไม่หยุดค่ะ
ทุกคนใน dtac เลยค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ Good morning to Europe. Good afternoon to all of you here. I'm very happy to welcome you today. I'm Alexandra Reich, the CEO of dtac. So before we go a little bit to the agenda, I would like to give you an update on our management team. There have been some changes in 17 and 18, but now we have built a very strong and dedicated team, and also a very diverse team. And Kunjab has just joined us a few months ago as Corporate Sales and Service Officer. She's really doing a fantastic job and driving performance with all the passion she has. And also Liren, he has joined us as CMO, and he has blended in within a few weeks just perfectly. So it's a strong team, and I would like to introduce them. Come on, come here and give a small introduction of yourself.
สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ is Tipayarat, nickname is Jeff. 5 years in McKinsey, 4 years in Bangkok Bank, 10 years in dtac in 4 different positions. I also did the startup for Telenor in Myanmar. My last job was CEO of Metro Cash and Carry, a German base who also owned Macro in Myanmar. I just rejoined dtac in February 1st.
Okay, my name is Liren. I joined dtac as a CMO in April, 2 months ago. I came from Digi, which is an operator in Malaysia. Worked there for 8 years, leading various roles from product development to corporate strategy to digital to sales. Prior to that, I spent 9 years in Deloitte Consulting, serving clients across the Asia-Pacific region. I'm excited to be here. I'm married to a Thai, blessed with 2 girls.
โอเคค่ะสวัสดีค่ะ My name is Natridi Adhanwong. You can call me กุ้งนะคะ I'm the CPO. I always work in the HR area. So I've been with dtac for 4 years now. And before joining with dtac, I've been in various industries, starting from Tesco Lotus, retail industry for over 10 years. And I moved to telecom, Nokia Siemens Networks. And also before I joined dtac, I was with Unilever and also look after multiple countries in Asia. Nice to meet you today.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dilip Pal, CFO for dtac. I have been with dtac for close to 2 years now. Prior to dtac, I was with Telenor Bangladesh for 3 years as CFO. And prior to that, I was with Telecom for 11 years, starting with Hutchison and with Vodafone, mostly in India.
สวัสดีครับ I need that as well, I think. Okay, my name is Pratet. I've been working for dtac for a long time, since we had only 2G network, 3G network, 4G network now, and hopefully very soon 5G network. In 2013 to 2014, I went over to Myanmar to help starting up the network from the ground up, building the first base stations, the first core sites and everything. Now, since 2015, I moved back to Bangkok and became CTO since.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Rajiv. I've been with dtac a little over 2 years, focusing on corporate affairs in our business segment. Before that, I've been with Telenor for about 8 years in the region, various roles, including working in our operations in India before Telenor sold that. And prior to that, I spent over 15 years in the US working for IBM in a variety of sales and consulting roles. Welcome to dtac.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. We see you later, all of you. So it's on me to give a short introduction. So I'm Austrian. To be very precise, I'm Viennese. And you would ask, why is an Austrian qualified, a woman, to head dtac? I'm 20 years in the telecom business, and I started my career as an investment banker, and then I had my own digital startup for a few years, which I really enjoyed very much. I started it in 1988, so a very long time ago. And then I moved into the telco space. I started with Fiat Intercom, then I worked in roles in Deutsche Telekom, Hutchison, Sunrise, and then 7 years in Swisscom in Switzerland. Before then, in 2016, I joined Telenor Hungary as a CEO, took over the cluster role for Serbia, Bulgaria, and Montenegro. And that cluster we sold or Telenor sold in 2018, August, and since then, I'm here in Thailand. I'm married, have 2 elderly kids, or grown-up kids, I would call them. And I'm very excited to be here. The last 10 months, I've shared that with some of you today, have been a bit rough, as I will tell you later on. But I really fell in love with this country, and especially with Thai, with Thai people. So it's great to be here, and it's a good challenge. So let's go quickly into the agenda, just to show you a bit what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to give you some introduction, and then we're going to hear from my dear colleague, Prepaid, how we are going to really build a network that is a real differentiator in the market. And then Liren and Konjiap are going to talk about our B2C approach. We really want to fight back, and we are fighting back already, but they're going to give you a lot more details on that. And we also see a huge opportunity on B2B, and that's what Rajiv is going to tell you later on. Then we have a coffee break, because you have to taste the Austrian pastry. And then we come back, and then Kundilip is going to share with you the financials, so the most important part, and then we're going to be here to answer your questions. So a very full afternoon, but we hope you all feel very comfortable here, and we can take you a bit on our journey. But I think before we take you on our turnaround story, as we call it, we would like to also, we would like to give you a little bit of an insight on the Thai market. So who are the Thai consumers? And I think this is a market that is very special, because people are very well informed, they're very engaged in this market, and their knowledge on, for example, spectrum auctions, for me, is totally uncomparable. So if you're heading home today with a taxi, it might happen to you that the taxi driver is starting a conversation with you whether or not dtac should be in one of the spectrum auctions or not. So that's the level of information you find in this market. People are really heavily involved. But their life has become very much mobile-centric. They are about 9 hours they are online, and the majority of it, they're actually on their mobile. So I wonder sometimes when they sleep. But it has been for them, for the Thai people, especially social media, has become very, very important. So they are always ranking among the top countries in the world when it gets to social media usage, especially Facebook and YouTube. I mean, people love to post in this country. We have a smartphone penetration that is over 80%, and people on average now use 10 gigabytes per month. I think this is impressive compared to the markets I come from. It's really incredible. And we still see growth, so it hasn't ended yet. People still want more, and they can use more with our great network. The last few years, dtac deliberately didn't participate in a very fierce competition, especially in the prepaid market. The focus on healthy financials, as well as some uncertainties around spectrum, and as well some issues on our network performance, created the fact that we lost revenue market shares over the last few years. So if you see that downsliding trend on revenue market share combined with, I would say, a deteriorating network experience, 2018, the year of end of concession, was meant to be a very difficult one for dtac. So we were prepared for this. We knew it's going to be difficult. So what did it really mean to us? 2018, end of concession, meant losing 1800 and 850 spectrum by mid of September 18. But we catered for that in order to be ready for losing 1800. We made an agreement with TOT to roll out 2300, and we did it from March onwards. We also densified it 2100 to cater for the 850 loss. So we were prepared for it. But if you think that we started the rollout of 2300 in March, and that we were supposed, end of remedy was supposed for mid of September, it was kind of a challenge, and the timeline was very short. So we really hoped for remedy to get more time to roll out 2300 and densify on 2100. But MBDC decided not to give us remedy, but on the other hand, they informed all customers in Thailand that they should port out of dtac network in order to avoid service loss. It was quite of a challenge, as you can imagine, but we filed a lawsuit. We won and got 3 months remedy until mid of December. And that was the time when we really speeded up rolling out our 2300 network. And by the time of the 15th December, we were kind of ready for the transformation of our network. In the meantime, we had also built up a better relationship to the regulator, I would say. And we were auctioning for 900, so we also had 5 megahertz of low-band spectrum. If you look at that timeline, and I've just told you what happened, I joined in August 2018. So it was kind of a very smooth onboarding. But yes, and there were a lot of people, especially internally, who asked me, and I say it nicely now, why did you join dtac, especially at that point in time? And I have a very clear answer to that, and that is, for me, a crisis is a huge opportunity, and for all of us. Crisis is the moment where you can really do things which matter most. You don't have to compromise anymore. You just have to do things. But even better than this, in a crisis, you can build a team which is very strong together, which collaborates, which focuses on the things that need to be done. And I promise, that feeling is very difficult to create in good times. And you know, you go through these tough times together, and then, for example, the last few weeks, we feel a kind of a positive relief. We feel that things are going into the right direction. I don't say too much, Kundilip, I promise. And that is it feels a bit like winning the Champions League after 6 times not making it. So we feel a little bit like a small Liverpool at the moment, right? Yes? Okay. So this crisis for us was a real opportunity, and that's the way we all saw it. So what did we actually do when this crisis came up? So on the one hand, we had to really focus on managing the crisis, managing in a way that we go through it without least impact for our customers. So what we did first is we did communicate very openly, transparently, and also to a certain extent humble. So we didn't tell anyone that everything was fine, but we said we're going to improve things. So we were very open, and not only to our customers, but also to our employees, and also to all other stakeholders, including the regulator. And I think that approach really helped us to go through the crisis, and people started to trust us again. At the same time, we rolled out, and I must say a big compliment, compretet to all your team and everybody. We rolled out 2300 in an incredible effort. 13,000 sites from March to the end of the year. That was really amazing. Sure, there were still some patches it was not perfect, but the experience we could give our customers by acquiring 900 and by really rolling out 2300 was really good by the mid of December. Or it was kind of good, let's say. And even more important, we changed the way we work. We changed the way we look at things. I don't have a technology background. I know Prepaid. I'm sorry for that. But when I met our colleagues from Network for the first time, they were telling me all the network KPIs. And looking at those network KPIs, it just felt like, does it really reflect what our customers feeling out there? No, something was missing. So what we did is we looked a lot deeper into analytics. We really added also complaints as a source of information. And we did a work on finding out the network NPS, so the real voice of our customers, on a weekly basis in a very granular way, looking into each and every region and knowing how our customers are perceiving the network. So adding all this and even calling up customers to find out what is their problem helped us, on the one hand, to find the root causes of the problems, but also kind of repairing and making the network better every day. I gave a lot of pain also to my colleagues in TG because I was very accessible. So every customer who wrote to me on Facebook or tried to contact me with their complaints, I was following up on. So I went to my colleagues and said, come on, what is happening with this customer? You can imagine they didn't care about this one single customer, but they learned how to care about them. So it changed the mindset. It became a lot more customer-centric, and I think that was one of the biggest achievements during that time. But it was not only about the network. In each and every domain, we became much more focused on the real experience of the customer during that difficult time. And you can imagine that people were really ambitious to follow up. But it was not only about managing the crisis, but it's about using that crisis in order to create a platform for sustainable growth. For growth that is not just short-term, but that is giving us a real differentiation in the market. So we have a very strong brand. dtac is a brand that is really a love brand. A few times it happened to me that I walk in the streets and people come up to me and say, I love dtac. I don't think any of my European colleagues ever had this experience. So it's really, really, you get a lot back in this market. But we also did some behavioral research. We looked into our data, and what we found was this market is super complex. It's not transparent. And there are a lot of technology buzzwords around in this market. But what do customers really want? They want convenience. They want a partner they can trust in, somebody who doesn't fool them. And they also want to be appreciated as an individual. So the positioning we were looking for, and what it really drives us now, is to become a simple partner, somebody you can deal with in a very easy way. So give the convenience that customers are looking for. At the same time, being super honest, not fooling our customers in any way. So that's one of the key assets of our brand. And being a little bit human. And even the setup of today should give you a little bit of a touch that how we want to address our customers. We want to be close to them. We want to appreciate them personally. And we just don't want to kill them with technology buzzwords. So our positioning is based very much on the heritage that we have, that is very strong. And it is on the emotional side about being simple, honest, and very human. But we also know that we have to add the functional benefits. So improving our network, constantly improving our network, and delivering on a consistent network experience, that's what we are working on. But this being simple, being honest, and also being human is easier said than done. And we didn't really want to just claim it, but we wanted to prove it. And what better situation do you have than a crisis to really clean up and claim a new positioning? And I would like to introduce to you 4, I would say, examples how we really claim that positioning, not only externally, but also internally. Walking the talk, that's what we really wanted to do. So what I told you in the beginning, we were very honestly communicating. We said we're going to improve things. Jamajutka. Really improve on a daily basis. We were transparent about our challenges. And you could see out there with our commercial where we introduced Jamajutka, this became really talk of the town. People were kind of, they were starting to listen to us, which was the first big achievement, but they also started to trust us because they felt we really meant what we are claiming. What we also did is, there were a lot of complaints about from customers that were subscribing to value-added services or CPA without deliberately wanting it. And that was kind of a nice revenue, but it was not really something that customer wanted. So we cleaned up with this and said we have a very strict onboarding, so people only, when they want to get content, they buy it, but not just on an undelivered way. I think that's one of the main reasons why complaints went down dramatically, but also churn improved quite a bit at that time. This market is also very promotion-driven. So you have promos everywhere, minus 70%, minus whatever. But normally these promotions in our industry are not super transparent. And then people at one point get a very negative surprise. So we decided we don't want to give our customers a negative surprise. So these promos, which are intransparent, we're not going to launch them. And if we give them, if there's a promotion, we will guide our customers through the process in a very transparent and honest way. And the last kind of big decision we took, because all these are big decisions and they have a revenue impact. So it wasn't something simple that we decided, but it really was paving the future for sustainable growth and cleaning up and claiming that real differentiating positioning in the market. It's an industry practice to discriminate existing versus new customers, but we don't think people really want that. People want to be treated equal, and that's what we went for. And our colleagues from the commercial unit will tell you a lot more about it. So these are really 4 building blocks for our future, to be the honest one and to be very simple and also kind of, working with our customer in a very close way. Being human means also being human to our own people. I don't believe that technology is a big differentiator in our industry. In the end, it's all about people. It's about the people you work with, and it's about their motivation. Some of them are here today, some of the dtac people are here. And if you see the passion in their eyes, how they want to drive this turnaround in dtac, that makes the difference, not the technology. That's also the reason why we focused so much on people. So the first phase was more about learning, listening, and gaining trust. Because there was a little bit of frustration. You've been losing revenue market share for too long, and you feel, come on, it can't stay like this. And then listening to our own people, we learned a lot. We learned what we need to do. And also set a certain behavior. The 4 examples I've given you set also a very important example internally, because people understood. They just don't claim it. They really do it, and they mean it. We also mobilized them in the second phase very much about, we openly talked about our challenges. So we shared them. But we created this common belief that we can have success. And it really, dtac, in that sense, a lot of people tell me, is very special. The feeling you get in this company is very unique. And if you can mobilize these people, it's an incredible strength. And that's what we're doing now, and I feel it's going into absolutely the right direction. We also, in the next phase, want to empower people a lot more. Still now, we are organized in functional silos in order to create end-to-end experiences And in order to also get closer to our customers when it gets to decision making, we will change the way we work, more in cross-functional teams and a little bit more in an agile way. So people for us are key, and I think they will make the difference in this market for us. Before I invite my colleagues to tell you a little bit more details and also go deeper into numbers, I want to share with you that we really do believe that we can get back to growth. And we believe it because we see it. We see early indicators, and we will share with you now the first quarter, but what I can tell you is that also the last months, which means April, May, and even the first day of June, show that this direction is consistent, so that we're picking up, we're getting back to growth. It takes time because we want to do it without heating up the market. We are not going to overspend. We're not going to kind of be over-aggressive, but we want to do it in a consistent way. We want to build a platform that really allows us to have a sustainable growth. And that means to really work on this consistent network experience, it also means that we win back on prepaid. We've been successful on postpaid, but prepaid has been the market where we lost. So turning around prepaid and being a player again in a more rational market now is something which we are very focused on. But we also believe there's a huge opportunity and a very good team to win against on B2B. I mean, we have a very small market share. We can win in this market if we do things right. And I'm very convinced with the mindset we have, the belief and the trust, and the brand we carry, we can really make a difference. And now I'm happy to invite my colleagues. So first, Prepaid. He's really the master of this network. He's the one who has rolled out a network in 9 months. He is really the biggest support, and he will entertain you now for the next 30 minutes.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much,
Thank
Alex.
you.
There'll be a few jargons on technical, if you allow it, Alex, in my presentation. Okay, hi again. Just like what Alex was saying just now, last year was a major transition on the network part, right? We came into the year 2018 without knowing what would come out when we finished 2018. We started off the year with this kind of spectrum, right? On the different bands, just like what you're saying. And then at the end of the day, going through all of these changes, we actually came out having higher spectrum than what we had been. That has been a major uncertainty during the year, but at the same time, although we're saying that we have more spectrum than what we had before, but there are some parts that had to be turned off. If you notice this, the yellow one, that used to be our main workhorse, right? The 1800 megahertz. That used to be our main workhorse. We provide the data capacity mainly through that layer. That we had to turn off during the concession time. But just like what Alex was saying, we had acquired during actually April time, not March, Alex. April time, we acquired 60 megahertz of the TDD 2.3. That had now become our major workhorse, yeah? The new capacity layer that we are using to provide the data capacity for all the 4G users. So that is good. Now looking at our portfolio, right, compared to the market basically, yeah. So we're in terms of absolute number of the megahertz, we have higher download capacity than anyone else in Thailand. Okay, that's number one. Number two, if we take a look at the customers that we're serving, right, number of customers that we're serving, combined with the number of megahertz that we're having, we actually in a much better position than competitors to provide a good data speed network. Yeah, so that was a good part on the spectrum. Then what else did we do? On the rollout part, just like what Alex was saying before, there had been a lot of changes happening last year. And then we had the new spectrum, we turned off some spectrum. But on top of that, we had also rolled out tremendously in the last couple of years. Last year, we rolled out 4,000 towers. The year before that, that was another 4,000. And then all in all, from 2016 to 2019, we had grown the network around 55%, number of base station-wise, across the period of just only a few years. And that had been a major topsy-turvy kind of journey that we've been through in the last 2 years. To answer some of these changes in the spectrum that we've been saying, we had lost, some of the low band. We had 10 megahertz on the 850, now becomes 5. How do we deal with that? We rolled out new towers to densify the network. That would then, number one, improve the quality because we have more towers. More towers mean more better network quality. Number two, we are making ourselves a little bit more independent of the low band capacity, right? So the low band could then be used for coverage, not only capacity. Yeah? And then the densification comes in to serve on the capacity. Now TDD, which is our now main workhorse now. We rolled out 13,000. That was around the period of, I think, 9 months? No, not 9, 8 actually. Yeah, after April, 8 months. 8 months, 13,000 sites. For those of us who know a little bit about network rollout, you would understand the magnitude of the craziness that we've been through last year. Now we're standing around 15.4K, 15,000 sites, and it's still counting, it's still growing. We would continue to do the TDD rollout because this has now become our major network capacity layer, yeah? Then on top of that, we are rolling out the advanced solution, we call advanced solution, massive MIMO, 64T, 64R. For those of us that are in telecom world, you might have heard about the massive MIMO from someone else, right, in the market. But we are the only one that could do these many layers or orders of the massive MIMO in the market because of our TDD network that is unique only for dtac. We are roll out many other things, multiple split sector, twin beam, triple beams, and everything. So on the capacity part, we are actually in a pretty good position. Now we have 8 million subscribers on our TDD network. So that is spectrum and also network rollout. Now the way of work. This has been a major change, especially myself. Thanks to our CEO. If you look at this, right? This blue part, yeah? These were actually the only part where we were looking into, yeah? So we come out like this network has got that much average speed, that much drop call, that sales has bad KPIs and everything. We fixed the sales that had bad KPIs. But customer complaints were increasing. And our CEO asked why. Yeah? NPS was dropping down. The CEO asked why. We don't have the answer. Yeah? We said, Alex, but the network is doing well. Alex said, no, it is not doing well because our complaints were increasing, NPS is dropping. So what we did in the last 7-8 months was that we introduced this other dimension into our thinking as well. So now complaints, NPS scores, customer experience become the major ingredients in our rollout planning, right? So we feed this data into our engine and do the optimization, making some network planning going forward, using even not only the network KPIs, also customer information as well. So that is the change of the thinking that we're doing, that we're becoming more customer-centric network. Yeah, that goes around. We're doing this on a daily basis. Huh? We have a daily war room that we look into the customer complaints, customer data, NPS from the day before, feeding into our engine to see what has changed. What is changing from this yesterday to today? And there was event, there was this major incident happened, and how it impact our network, how we could improve that going forward. So that is the way of work changing. And this is the result so far. After all of those major rollout way of work changing, we had been able to reduce number of network complaints. This is the network complaints. Huh? The network complaints means that people who have issues with their network and they took time to call us to say, look, your network sucks. So we had been able to reduce the number of complaints from this much to this much, 28% drop in only a few months because of the way of work and the massive rollout that we had done. And on top of that, NPS is now improving. Over the course of, I think since the year, we had been able to double the NPS score in just 2-3 months time frame. based on this new way of work that we're doing. And last but not least, we are ranked number 1 by a third-party benchmark organization. I'm not allowed to say where, but I think you can find out. We're ranked number 1 in terms of download speed and video experience. So that means that people who are our customers, not people, our customers who are on our network, they get the best video experience there is that Thailand could offer. Yeah. Okay. So a recap on what we've done so far. So basically, what we're saying is that we now have a pretty strong position on the capacity part. We have a good spectrum portfolio. We have the capacity layer that is providing a good data speed, just like what we've shown before. We are deploying the massive MIMO advanced solution on our network. We also have the good foundation to build the coverage going forward. We have more towers than what we had before, almost like 10,000 towers that had been built in just the last 2-3 years. And then now the spectrum situation has now been resolved. We now know that we have what kind of spectrum that we have in our hand, how much we have in the low band and high band, and how we should deploy our network going forward. So that means that with all of this strong foundation, it provides a concrete platform so that we would build the network to cater for the growth and also to compete even in coverage part that we've been slightly lagging behind competitors in the last few years. So our vision, yeah? What do we want to be? So what we're saying is that it might not matter much if people see like super high number in their speed test results, because you actually don't know what actually is the high speed, right? But people would notice if you have bad experience when you use the mobile phone. Yeah? And among all the uses that we had so far, or people use in the daily life, video is one of the most demanding applications that you could find in the mobile network. Phone call is now peanuts. Huh? Phone calls, drop calls, and all these things is pretty easy to be honest. In today's network optimization. But the one that is becoming a major user or taking up a large portion of our traffic is actually video. And if we have a good network that provide a good video experience, unbuffered video experience, we're saying that is pretty much the ultimate experience that the user is looking for. Yeah? So that is our aim. We're saying that we could do that based on this foundation. We now have capacity based on our spectrum portfolio that we have. We have consistent coverage because we have densified our network quite a fair bit in the last 2 years. And also we are deploying the advanced solutions in our network, right? That competitors might have difficulty following up. Yeah? So that was the network part. Then the plan going forward, what do we do? TDD, our main workhorse, would continue, yeah, just like what it had been. So we would continue to roll out TDD going forward all the way until next year. The capacity upgrades in the places where we had capacity issue, that would then continue as so. We would then roll out the new sites to fix the coverage hole, just like what we've been doing in the last several months. Then around the end of this year, this would happen, right? We would start swapping the 850 and the 900 because if we follow up the development in the spectrum portfolio last year, we had acquired the 900, and then we have the extension to use 850 for the grace period of around 2 years. So starting around the end of this year, we'll start swapping 850 with the 900, and with that, we would then have a pretty good foundation to build the coverage going forward. Yeah? 2G sunset would happen sometime around Q3, Q4, according to an announcement from NBTC, so that is going to happen. Then we would then continue to drive for 5G readiness. I'll speak about that a little bit later on. And IT transformation as well. That is ongoing and would continue on to the next 2 or 3 years. The readiness for 5G. Yeah? A lot of people have been talking about 5G in the last, I think, several months, but we're actually the one that is kind of pretty ready. Yeah? We are the only operator that have virtualized our core network into 100% virtualized platform, right? So there'll be no more the legacy core where we have like the box that could do just only that function. I avoid using the jargons, Alex, GCSN, HSN, and all those things. If you are familiar with the term, there are no more separate boxes for those network function anymore, right? They're now become just a software, yeah, NFV, network function virtualization on the core platform that is vendor agnostic. We could expand the capacity of the network using hardware from any vendor at all. Just deploy the software on top of that, and that becomes our network. We are the only one that is doing that in Thailand today, yeah? And this network, because once it is software, right, that means that it could change very easily. So when the new 5G comes, the new architecture and everything, we can just swap that just like so, right? Install the network, install the software, it becomes 5G core for us the next day, yeah? 5G EPC, Evolve Packet Core, that is, we're going to taste that sometime within Q3, so that is happening as well. Our transport network is also very important. If people in the know knows that transport is a good part of 5G because 5G deliver super fast speed and everything, right? So you need to have like very good transport network to cater for that. 90 or more than 90 actually, more than 90% of our sites are fiberized. So that means that it is ready to upgrade to super high speed right away. Actually, more than 50% of our sites has 10 gigabit speed into that site already today. 10 gigabit, right? And the rest, the remaining 50 could be upgraded to 10 gigabit. We're just adding the modules. No more box swapping. We don't have to swap any box because we've been preparing for that for a long time, right? So our core network is now ready for 5G. The radio access, which is the most important part. If you remember the rollout that we showed earlier, right? The swapping in 850-900, right? The fact that we were the last one that had been through the concession, was a little bit a blessing in disguise because we get to deploy the latest network there is that a vendor or vendors could offer. So that means when we deploy the 900 swap at the end of this year, our network that we're deploying will be 5G ready from day one. So whenever we get the 5G in whatever spectrum that I cannot say, we would have 5G by just turning on that site that we're installing. So that means that we have the head start in the network preparation for 5G, and when that happens, hopefully Kun Dilip won't have to scratch his chest because the CAPEX impact will be moderated. Yeah? Okay, thank you. He not so, he agrees. IT part. Along with the network transformation that we're doing, or we have been doing since the last 2 years, or 3 years, IT is also another area where we're focusing as well. There are a lot of stuff. I'm not going to be going into all details, but basically what we're saying is that we're digitizing our IT core. For example, we're swapping ERP so that our ERP in the future, or that is coming up very soon, would have more capability, will help in the process automation. We are swapping our BI platform to enhance capability because we know that analytics is the key to everything else in the future, right? So BI capacity or capability would be super important in the future, and we see that we're doing something around that. Along with those hardware things, the way of work is also another thing that we're focusing on. In the last 2 years, actually more than 3 years, we had started the Agile Way of Work in all of our customer-facing IT parts, our applications, call centers, our retailer apps, our many things. So the applications that are being used in the shops are now developed through the Agile Way of Work. No longer would we have this project reports and all of that. Our customer service team, developer, business team are sitting together to decide what they want to do. And they have the free run on what they want to do. So that has been happening. And we're upgrading that part to include this thing into the development process. I think for those of us who are in the technology area, you would notice that in the last, I think, especially several weeks or months, or even the last year, the the emphasis on security has been increasing tremendously, right? So we are integrating that into the way of work. We're calling it, instead of like DevOps, it becomes DevSecOps, right? So security part is now integrated into the thinking from the very start. Whenever we want to do something, we have to think about security as well. If the app is secure enough, if the platform is secure enough, and the way of work is that secure, process and everything. So that is DevSecOps. We also, not only on the way of work, we're building the secured environment, right? A new IT environment. For those of us that are in the IT area, you know, building a new IT environment, that is a massive task, right? We are building a new secure environment that is like a Fort Knox. You cannot penetrate into this environment. And then gradually, we will continue to migrate the applications from the outside into the insides and making our entire IT network secure. The last part, people part. That is the last part that Alex was mentioning as well. What we're saying is that in the IT world, the skill that people might be thinking about when they're talking about IT, people would be like coding, you know. What kind of languages are you able to write, or do you know the system infrastructure management, hard disk, CPU allocation, whatever, or you know system architecture? Those are no longer the core IT capability anymore. Going forward, the skills that the IT people needed would then be Scrum Master, being Scrum Master, knowing how to work in Agile way, knowing analytics, knowing AI, knowing machine learning. These are the skills that would be required in the future, and we see that as well. So starting from, I think not today, actually some time ago, we start to build people in these competencies that will be required in the future in our IT platform as well. So entire thing, you know, from the hardware, way of work, and people, this is our IT transformation that comprises to the whole picture of IT going forward. Okay, I think then, now that was the technology part. Now how do we use all of this to win customers back? I would like to invite my lovely friend, Kun Tipiarat and Kun Liren, to come on stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kun Pratet. Now that you have built an awesome network, we are ready to win back, right? Kun Jeff?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to spend the next few minutes, or the next section, together with Kun Jeff and I, to share our reflections around the market development, our observations, our position, our priorities for 2019, and also some of the steps that we have taken to build sustainable growth. If you looked at the Thai market over the last few years, the growth has been slowing down. But we still believe in growth. And we still believe that the industry has room and space for growth. And this is primarily driven by two key drivers. The first is to look at how strong the demand is for data. As Kun Alex has mentioned, today, on average, every customer is consuming close to 10 gigabytes per month. And we have seen this growing on an annual basis of 29% since 2017. The second area is to see how we have shifted. A lot of consumers have moved from prepaid to postpaid. And this has also driven an increase in uplift in ARPU that thus delivers the growth in this business. What consumers are seeking for is the consistency of uninterruptible internet experience without the hassle of doing daily and weekly top-ups. Thus, you see the shift from prepaid to postpaid. But I would also like to take this opportunity to take a deeper look at the market in Thailand. If you look at today in the Thai market, I'm sure all of you would agree that it is fairly complex. Every operator in the market has many prepaid propositions, hundreds of toppings and add-ons. This is no different for postpaid as well. And in fact, in all our research, customers are also telling the same thing to us. They don't understand the product proposition. They do not know what they're buying. They do not know what they're consuming. Thus, the complexity. But as Kun Alex has mentioned earlier in the day, this has now given us a fantastic opportunity to create a differentiated position by being simple, by being honest, and also coupling with the human touch. But this has to be done, obviously, with the support of ensuring that we continue to deliver a consistent network experience and a competitive product portfolio. So what are we going to do in 2019? We have set our goals to focus on 3 key areas to win back B2C. The first is to stabilize prepaid. And the second is to keep the strong momentum on postpaid growth. And last but not least, is to step up significantly in enhancing customer experience while scaling up personalization. So let me just walk you through some of our observation in prepaid over the last few years. It has been a struggle. I think we acknowledge it has been a struggle for us, and primarily driven by both external and internal factors. On the external front, we have seen all operators racing to the bottom on pricing. In 2018, I'm sure all of you would know that the prepaid offerings was very much on an unlimited basis. And at the same time, there was also a lot of heavy subsidies on prepaid acquisition by our competitor. While we have taken a principled philosophy of not pushing subsidy on prepaid. Internally, we were also faced with some challenges on network and, of course, some areas of improvement for distribution. But what we have seen, at least over the last few months, is signs of opportunity and stabilization. The market now has pulled out from prepaid, unlimited prepaid offering in May. We have also seen a scale down in prepaid subsidy for competitors. And at the same time, with the superb work from Kun Pratet, our network NPS is doubled within 2 months, from January to March 2019. And of course, with the effort from Kun Jab and the team that basically revitalized distribution so that we can focus on more quality acquisition. So let me just go a little bit deeper on what has happened with regards to the prepaid proposition. In 2018, every one of us was offering unlimited proposition. In 2019, we started offering bite-size, low-value kind of fixed speed quotas. And of course, since the withdrawal of unlimited in May, we have also now introduced fixed quota toppings at a price point of 100 baht and 200 baht. And this now gives us an opportunity to monetize on data. Let me now invite Kun Jab to share with us how she has revitalized the sales and distribution, which is a key component in driving prepaid business.
Hi. I joined in February 1st. I've been to 15 provinces. I've been looking into business intelligence reports, thousands of them, talking to hundreds of retailers, talking to our customers in the shop, talking customers in retailers where they are buying our SIMs, and then at the end of the day, talking to our agents because they know exactly what customer want. And then identifying quick wins with team with clear focus on the quick wins. How we gain back the momentum, gain back our market share that used to belong to us, and then give clear directions to the sales team. We basically telling sales team that you don't have to compete with the competitors, just compete with yourself. Fixing your basics, being better every day, every week, every quarter, and that's what we have done. And you can see that we have grown this gross at 14% only in the last 16 weeks that I have joined. And I have to say that it has been a pleasure to see that because they actually deliver on what they committed that they will be doing. And then at the same time, when you sell a lot of gross ad, but customer churn out is not going to be good for business as well. So the sales team are focused on quality. We basically tell them that you cannot sell the first time and as customer throw your SIMs away. You have to make sure that customer continue to use and what you have to do to serve them better. So then that's pay off in that way too, that not only gross add, but we improve quality. It has been growing on the same direction. But we are not stopping here. We keep expanding, yeah? Now we're expanding footprints in all the means. We're gonna be reactivating the retailers that used to sell us, but no longer selling us for multiple reasons. Okay, we're gonna build them confidence again that you can sell us and then make money. And then we are onboarding distributors in selected provinces, especially in the regions that we are lagging behind. We're gonna bring back what used to be our market share. And last but not least, we actually learned from the past that what was the best way of delivering best distribution. We used to be the biggest prepaid player, and we would like to bring that back. And then also we learned from other business units across Telenor what will be the business model that is applicable to Thailand. That's what we are planning to do. Okay. So then, in the meantime, while we are building a lot of things, we basically have very tactical approach. In the areas where we cannot build retailers right now, no RTR coverage, where the migrant segments are in, we actually go into with the areas with our special sales force. We know exactly what time they come to work, what time they go home, what time they play on internet on the weekends, and they are there at the time that they need us. And it has been successful. The special sales force, direct sales force growth has been 24%. This is very targeted surgical approach that we use in the sales team. And then once you talk to competitors, you talk to, in retailers, you know what competitors are offering. And then you know what distributors are getting. And then also our sales team are getting. We review and revise and then incorporate everything into the new commission and new incentive scheme, making sure that it drives the performance that we need and we would like to have. And then it increased inflow revenues for 7% in the last 2 months. And the last thing, we work hand in hand with technology team, marketing team, business intelligence team. We know exactly when the new sales site is up and running, where network quality has been improved. We make sure that we are there on exact day. We have local activities, really engaging our customer, making sure that they are aware of the improved network quality and reconsider us again. And that's what we have done.
Okay.
Now, Khun Lilen talk about Postpaid, because Prepaid has been very positive.
More growth stories.
And then we have growth story.
Yes.
I think in April, May, and the last 3 days of June.
That's right.
All green.
And we
green
can't
days.
share more, right? But
yeah.
definitely
more
very
more
positive
good story
fractions.
to tell.
Yes.
Yeah.
So moving on to Postpaid, I think our focus is definitely to sustain this positive momentum through competitive offerings, and of course, coupled with the improved network position. What we have observed now is that we have steadily seen revenue growing over the last few months, and we have also successfully maintained a very stable market share. If you look at Postpaid, we have taken a very clear customer-centric position of not differentiating between new and existing customers. In fact, what is important to us is to ensure that we value our existing customers while ensuring we have competitive offering to attract new customers. So recently, we have also launched a campaign that is equally exciting for our existing customers, where they get to enjoy discounts on devices. The longer they stay with us, the more discounts they enjoy with the purchase of the device bundle. At the same time, with the significant migration and densification of the network on TDD, as Khun Pratet has mentioned, we have close to now 8 million customers on TDD. We have also seen significant usage, data usage, as people now enjoy better internet. And this has also been illustrated here, whereby customers that are on TDD network has actually generated a 15% higher ARPU than those that are not on TDD. So again, it's a fantastic opportunity for us to create a perfect network customer experience and at the same time monetize from the higher usage of data. On the acquisition front, we continue to communicate honestly on our network position to build trust. We create and extended on our device offering in the first quarter of this year. In fact, recently, I'm sure you have noticed, we have also introduced a bundled device screen protection as part of our proposition to give a very, very free experience for our customers. And of course, coupled with the fact that the branded channel and the contact center is the key channels for our acquisition, we are working very closely to ensure all our priorities are executed accordingly across these channels to maximize on our acquisition momentum. And of course, as a result of this, what we have seen now is an improvement on net adds for postpaid. We closed at a positive 123,000, and at the same time, with better retention over the same period of time. The third key priority for us is, of course, to see how we can enhance customer experience. And we want to enhance customer experience by combining the power of digital and at the same time, the elegant touch of human. Right? So what we believe here is to embrace true omni-channel experience. The reason for us is to do this is to ensure that we give the flexibility to our customers in engaging with us. And at the same time, we will also step up our effort to improve our digital channel experience and to deliver also personalized offers that are relevant to our customers. And to do this, we will definitely leverage on a lot of data and insights that we have to understand our customers' needs. And of course, last but not least, with the fantastic work that we have done at the physical channel, we will continue to step up in ensuring that the experience in in-store and contact center stays relevant for our customers. Just take a deeper dive into how we have progressed in the personalization journey. Our intent here is to make sure that every offer that we are creating for you has to be relevant. It has to be relevant to a point whereby it meets your need at a point in time, at the right place, and at the right price. So what we have seen is that we have been able to do this consistently across channels, both digital and physical channels. Every customer today will be able to access this personalized offer, whether you are at a physical shop or you are at our digital channel. There's no discrimination to a certain extent. But we have also seen, with personalization, we have now increased our contribution of popping sales by 3 percentage points over just a year. That means this has definitely an opportunity for us to upsell, to make sure that at every point of opportunity, we are able to position and present a compelling offer and relevant offer to you. And of course, this is not it, Kunjab.
Okay.
Yeah? So
yes.
there's more that we have done at the store.
More story to tell. Yes. Okay. There are two ways, but ultimately it's good for our customers. In shops, we actually have digitalized service payment channels. So this is good for the agent to spend more time with customer on value-added transaction. They can do package advisory. They can fix the device. They can transfer data from old device to new device. And they can do many other things, right? So then average waiting time in shops has been down 23% because now it's like end-to-end transaction that one agent can serve customer in all the transaction that they need. At the same time, at the retailer channels, we have very user-friendly applications that high and higher adoption like every month. Now almost 100% of retailers are using this application. It actually helps tell them exactly what promotion is today, what is the balance that they sell today, what is the target that are still lagging behind, what commission that they are getting. It's actually getting us too close to them and to tell them, okay, you have to work harder, so tomorrow you deliver more, or you have like new target to achieve. And that at the end of the day, like I told you, that it's actually, we are very focused on customer-centric and simplicity. Time to register is less than 1 minute for SIM registration. I think it's at most like fastest in this market already, and customer love this, yes. And then last but not least, call center. I think a lot of you have called call center, and before that, I heard a lot of complaints. If you're not happy previous months, please call again. I think you will have the new experience. And then in the branded retail outlet as well, that we have actually identified the pain point and then identify the key complaint, key processes that driving churn or driving customer dissatisfaction. And we actually address those processes. For example, customer who does MNP coming to us, customer who complain about network, customer who complain about billing. We basically identify end-to-end customer journeys, making sure that they have the right information, they have the right feedback, they have the right response times, and then we have the information that they need, answer the right questions. And in the shop, we actually do the skill training. We have done extensive training with our agent, making sure that they can handle multiple transactions. And as you can see, customers are recognizing that customer satisfaction has improved across the channels, and in line with customer complaint that it has gone down drastically. So these are all the things that has paid off for the hard work and dedication of all the team that are working together. We are not saying that crisis is behind us, but I think we are improving every day, and we are very motivated to see the response of the customer, of the market, and of the team that are working with us. So now, more good story to tell from my nice colleague, Mr. Rajiv, on B2B. This is another good story. Okay, Rajiv, welcome.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kunjep. Thank you, Liren. I'm struggling a little bit with my throat, so apologies if I pause for water in the middle. You've heard the story on our network. You've heard the story on how we plan to win back our customers in the B2C segment. The next few minutes, I'll just give you a little bit of a flavor of what dtac is doing in the B2B space. This market has been around for a long time, and dtac has also attempted in the last few years to focus on it, but we had never really focused on this market with real specific customer focus and how do we really make a difference. So next few minutes, I'll just give you a few examples of how over the last 1 year, we've started addressing this market and why we believe that we've really have an opportunity here to grow our revenue base and our subscriber base. But before I go any further, let me also address a little bit of what does this market or addressable market mean to dtac. Many of you have probably looked at the B2B market and probably have seen how different analysts, many of you are here, probably size this market. It's a fairly large market. And it's very large because it also includes a lot of ICT solutions. It includes a lot of co-location, data center, many solutions that enterprises need when they look at how do they want to address their needs. What we have done is we've actually looked at just the addressable mobile opportunity of the B2B market, and that in 2018 was roughly 22 billion baht. And I just want to repeat this point because I want you to all understand why we believe we can make a difference if we focus on this market the right way. In 2018, the addressable market for mobile only in Thailand in B2B space is about 22 billion baht. Our revenue in this market in 2018, with a little bit of focus, has been less than 10%. the mobile market of B2B is probably not going to grow much. The B2B overall is probably growing because a lot of other services are going. But if we just stay with the mobile market, next few years it's probably going to remain flat or maybe a little bit of growth. However, if we in dtac focus on this market properly and get our fair share, we get a lot of growth because we are below 10% in 2018. And that's going to be my story next few charts to give you a flavor of how and why we believe if we do this right, we can grow this market from a dtac perspective. This market also has a lot of customers. Customers that might be a company of 2 people or companies that are listed in the stock market. So the needs of these customers vary a lot, and how they've been serviced varies a lot as well, because every customer has a unique need in many cases, and so a lot of solutions have been customized to suit those customers. And then on the lower end of this market, a lot of these customers end up buying postpaid connections because it's easy and they get what they need from that. So what we have done over the last year or so is started to look at how do we want to address this segment. And obviously, given our market share and our focus, we don't want to be there and try to solve all customers' problems, but we want to go with an approach which is fairly simple and very focused to how we believe we might be able to service the customers and their needs. So here is a sample of 3 different types of customers in this segment: a small company that's just started on one end, on the other end, a fairly mid to large size company. All of them have specific, unique needs of how they want to get serviced from a mobile perspective. And after understanding this in the last year and on a daily basis, because a lot of our time now goes in seeing what do these customers want and how do we really create a very simple way of addressing this segment. And our approach here is simple and honest, worry-free. We don't want them to really worry about when they use mobile services, not get overcharged, get value for what they're paying for, and also very standardized. We want to create almost like a business-in-a-box solution for them when they use their mobile services. Give you another flavor of this, 2018, we actually took a step back and said, how do we really want to go address this market as we start to see these needs that we want to make sure are met for these customers in the B2B segment. So we did 4 things. The first one is organizationally, we've now created a small team that focuses on this segment so that we are close to the customer with full end-to-end accountability. While my colleagues are focused a lot on the consumer business, which is a very large part of dtac's business, and obviously a lot of focus goes on that, a small team works with me and with many others in dtac to really look and understand the needs of this customer segment and see how do we want to make a difference by creating these simple solutions and address the needs in a fast manner and ensuring that as these needs are changing, we are ready to respond with a simple solution as well. Again, I'm only focusing on the mobile part of the segment, business segment now. The second thing we did was simplified our portfolio. Over the last few years, we have been selling to this market, but we have created, because of the way we were focused, a big complexity, both internally as well as we address the needs of the customers. We had over 2,500 price plans, because every customer was different, and hence we created something new. So now we've simplified the core portfolio a lot, which means we're able to then give customers what we believe will fit most of their needs and can then add more products through a modular approach. The third thing we've done is simplified the journey. We've created a digitized customer onboarding, which almost all our channels use. So it's simple, it's easy for customers to join and for us to bring them on board. And the last thing, which we're still will keep improving, is improving our distribution. So the customers can be served not only in our shops, but also by telesales, as well as web and many other channels. To give you a little bit more context of what I mean by a simple product portfolio. As I said, historically, we built a lot of complexity. We had over 2,500 products. Now it's very simple. In the SME space, we have 8 products. These are modular products where customers, depending on their needs, how much voice, data, etc. they want, we have standardized products. And then they can top it up with simple roaming solutions, with bulk messaging. A lot of companies have needs to send messages to their customers. That can be done in a very easy manner. We're also looking to deploy a virtual PABX solution, which makes it easier for small companies to actually not have any fixed lines and have a simple solution online which can connect their teams in a very nice manner. And then we're also introducing some IoT SIMs to these companies as well. Again, simple. People take what they need, and they can change and add as they want. One other thing we're doing here is for customers that don't take handsets, which many don't want, there is no contracts, which has never been done before because a lot of times companies were asked to sign long contracts, and we're trying to get away from that. We've just started doing this, and I'll show you some early examples of how we're seeing some success. But our approach here, again, repeating the value proposition, simple and honest, worry-free, and make it very modular for customers so they really see the difference we're trying to make with this approach. Then we've also created a slightly larger distribution with different sorts of channels that customers can be reached at. They can go to a shop. We have a telesales organization. We have some direct sales, as well as on our web, this can be serviced. Plus, for some of the larger accounts, we also have account managers because, again, some of the companies do need that face-to-face and that, so that's part of here as well. But most of the focus is to be really simple, have a lot of channel, so we can go and interact with customers on a daily basis and see how quickly we can respond to their needs. Then, we're also looking to see how can we build a bit of an ecosystem through partnerships. As time now goes with more and more companies trying to look at technology and look at mobile solutions, many companies are looking to see how their products can get better. An example of a manufacturing company that manufactures meters wants these meters to be smart, which means these meters need to get embedded with SIMs. And how do you do that? That you do this by creating a partnership with this company where you work together to build a solution, and this solution then goes to market. It's a win-win because this company is able to improve their product with technology, and it's a win-win because we're able to then embed this product with thousands of SIM cards. So we're looking at how do we work in a partnership model with some companies to grow our SIM penetration through an IoT or a B2B2C model. And then, because of our connection with Telenor, we have a lot of footprint around connections outside of Thailand. And I now mean lease line circuits, where companies that have requirements of having trunk lines or lease lines from Thailand to, let's say, Myanmar or Malaysia or Singapore, etc., can actually work with us, and we can do this in a very nice manner because of partnerships that we have with some of the global players. So that's basically how we feel by taking this different approach, we can build on our small market share and grow the business, at least in this space. And to just give you an example, in the last 1 year with this little focus that we've had, these numbers look big, but our base is very small. So I just wanted to repeat that. But the early signs are quite positive. In 1 year, we've more than doubled the gross adds we do on a monthly basis. We've also seen an improvement in our pack fee, which is what we get from each customer when we sell. And then we've also grown our customer base. So the little focus that we had with last year, which was a lot to really understand this market, has now created a platform for us to try to scale. And hopefully next year when we are here or whenever we meet, I'll be able to give you some more data points on how we are able to do this by this small focus, being very simple, and having a team that's more dedicated and close to the customers. So that was a really quick rundown on how we believe we can focus on the B2B segment. We will now take a short break for 15 minutes, and please have coffee with us and the cake. And then we're back here for financials. Sorry, Austrian cake. Yeah, pastry, sorry. So 15 minutes, then we come back, listen to Dilip present financials, and then Q&A. Thank you.
Welcome back. Can you please settle down? Okay, so we are at the last two sections. I will give a quick update on the financials and then followed by Q&A. Those of you who have listened to our last quarterly earnings call on 25th April, we promised that we will come back on 4th of June with two things. One is talk about dtac's turnaround strategy more around growth. How do you turn around? Giving you a little bit more flavor than what we have done before. And also give you guidance or detailed outlook for 2019. As you would recall, we did not guide the market on revenue as well as on EBITDA. So today, what I'm going to take you through is guiding for 2019 and also give you a little bit more flavor on how do you see our ambitions for midterm. So far, what you have seen, I hope you have a reasonable understanding of how we have looked at our strategy. You know some of those pillars that we spoke about, what are the growth drivers, and I'm sure you will have a lot of questions which we will try and address in the Q&A. But it is sufficient to say that we are getting better and the journey has started. So before I get into the guidance, what I'll start with a little bit of a background and on some financial numbers. So maybe oft repeated lines that you hear from me. While industry was growing in Thai telco, we are the one who were stagnating or declining on revenue. And that has resulted in market share loss over a long period of time. However, we delivered strong financial results. If you see over the last 3 years, our EBITDA margin actually expanded by 5 percentage points, moving up from 33.8 to 38.6. This is on a reported basis. And just to remind you, even in 2018, we had, towards the end of the year, cost changes, which has also impacted our EBITDA margin. I'm going to talk about that a little later. So, you heard Kun Alex talking about how we probably took a choice of not driving the prepaid revenue or not acquiring new customers in prepaid like the way the market has done. So if you look at our revenue journey, there are clearly two phases. One which has been over a long period of time, which has been going on. I think you heard us before talking about it, which is mostly driven by loss of prepaid subscriber. Just to look at this number, just last 15 months alone, our sub base declined by 2 million. So our primary reason for loss of revenue or a flat revenue structure was due to our loss of subscriber. And this is despite our postpaid subscriber growing every single quarter, which means that we could not manage the postpaid growth with the decline that we have seen in prepaid, despite postpaid ARPU being much higher than prepaid, almost 4 times higher. So I just wanted to bring a little bit of context. Probably it's a bit of repetition. So what has caused this? So first I will start talking about the long term. This is what you heard before. Long term, we had network issues. I would say network issues more in the form of that our network was probably behind competition, both in quality as well as in coverage. The second part, Kun Alex started and touched in her presentation, is about the super or hyperactive market competition which was going on in prepaid segments, mostly driven by device subsidy and also very high market spends. So we were very clear. Actually, when this started, we were also started participating in this game. But we realized very quickly that prepaid subscriber trying to acquire a new prepaid subscription through a device subsidy route doesn't make sense. So this was more to protect the value. So we decided not to go aggressive on that competition. So that's on the two parts, network, not so competitive, and also on the prepaid segments, which was mostly driven by, I would say, a bit of value destruction. But in more recent terms, some part probably internal, and some part external, or probably the industry issues has also driven some bit of instability in the market growth, both for us and for others as well. For more specific to us, we had issues around concession related, concession and the end of remedy related issues, which has resulted in our high value customers losing a little bit of confidence in our network and significant increase in the port out and the churn. That we have seen for some time. Then we have also seen what we described both in Alex's presentation and also in Liren's talking about it, the CPA or the value-added services revenue. So we needed to really address this more from a sustainable revenue growth rather than looking this as an opportunity to keep allowing customers to subscribe in not so transparent way of new acquisition. So this was a deliberate call. This is not an industry issue. This is more driven by dtac. So we are super clear on this, that this is something that we will drive to create a platform for a sustainable revenue growth and not look at revenue for a very short period of time. Also, most importantly, those of you who looked at industry very closely, starting from Q3, going to Q4, and possibly also in Q1, the unlimited acquisition products, both in prepaid and in postpaid. Postpaid, the price for unlimited products came down quite a bit, and prepaid got unlimited at a price point which was not sustainable. And that has led to ARPU dilution, and that has also led to some of the industry decline that you have seen Q3, Q4, and possibly also in Q1. I mean, no matter how you calculate that with some of the competitions, their numbers and cleanup, but the fact is that the unlimited product portfolio, both in prepaid and postpaid, has resulted in some bit of dilution. So this is more of, you heard before, and this is more of what we have seen now. We have seen so far. But what do we see now? And how it's clearly our assessment, and please understand that this is what we believe what's going on now. You heard about network. I don't want to repeat. I think sufficient to say that we are improving and we are getting better. We are not there yet, but I think we know our destination and we are progressing towards that. The competitive intensity is becoming more and more rational. We cannot say that it's fully rational, but you can never expect a telecom industry to be fully rational. There would always be pockets of irrationality somewhere here and there. But if you compare past and the present, I would say that it's becoming a little bit more rational. On the high-value customers, you have seen some of the trends my marketing and sales colleagues were showing, that we have actually port-out requests coming less and less. I mean, these are available in the public domain, as you can also see that our port-outs are going down, and which is a kind of an indication that our postpaid base is stabilizing. Combined with our marketing colleague that mentioned about that we don't discriminate anymore between existing customer and the new customer, which also means that some of the special offers which are available for new acquisition is also available to the existing customer, is also helping us to retain our high-value customers. So that's a clear proof available that is also probably on a good trend, on a positive trend. We spoke about CPA cleanup in 2 consecutive quarterly calls. And as I mentioned, I'm repeat again, this is our initiative, this is our drive. You can see the graph that the numbers have been on a decline, and this has been declining till Q1 19. But what we see now is, more or less it's kind of bottomed out. So with CPA revenue has good revenue and not so good revenue. I think the proportion of not so good revenue is becoming tinier and tinier every day. So we are comfortable, the level that we are seeing now, it's kind of stabilizing. And we have also seen, especially for us, because of our end of concession related issues, our ARPU, and also the combined with the unlimited offers, the ARPU taking a dip. But we again actually have seen that starting from January, which actually was pretty bad, after that February, March, we are on an improving trend. I think my colleagues were showing some of the numbers on the revenue that you normally see the quarterly revenue, but you don't see the revenue by months. So we tried to show a little bit trend there as well, that while we had a quarterly decline close to 6% year over year, but our January number was quite bad. So from a very low level, we have again started to climb up, and those numbers were visible both for prepaid and postpaid that you would have noticed in the marketing presentation. So now I hope you understand what was happening before till now and what is happening now, and what underpins our belief that some of those headwinds which were diluting our revenue growth or stagnating our revenue growth have started to improve. This is something dtac as a company we are very proud of. I think at the core of us believing in that financial discipline is what drives the value. And this is a bit of a demonstration of how we have done in the past. So past is also important because while we are not in a position probably to guide you with exact numbers, but then past tells us how we have looked at cost. Starting with cost of services, and I'm just for the sake of comparing to make it like for like, I'm excluding in the from cost of services the cost for CAT lease which has come in Q4 or from 16th of September actually in 2018, and then TOT roaming arrangement which has come from 21st of April 2018, and also the DNA, because I'm going to cover depreciation and amortization separately. If you really take that out, if you see from 2016 to 2018, our cost of service has declined by 26%. SG&A, where a major component of SG&A is actually sales and marketing cost, has declined by 17%. Now, we spoke about in our Q1 release of results to give you more flavor of that there is a reset of cost base. And reset of cost base explained through the CAT lease cost which is coming in, and also the TOT arrangement, the roaming cost that we book, which is coming in from April. Now, Q1 19 numbers for cost of service actually reflects that new cost base fully. And that number over year increase is close to 1.9 billion. DNA, a completely new numbers. End of concession related depreciation charging was over by 15th of September. And then from Q1 19, the depreciation and amortization number that you see is a new baseline for the numbers that you can see going forward. So overall, what I wanted to tell you is that we have done quite well on the overall cost in the past, and then I'm going to give a little bit of flavor of how you're looking at cost going forward. So some of these cost elements I'm going to explain. But before that, I think our focus has been on the simplification and the efficiency journey that we have started long back. That will continue. Probably the focus would be more on structural cost initiatives, which are not short-term, but long-term sustainable. So the shift of gear would be more towards sustainable cost efficiencies that we can demonstrate. I will not go through all the line items, but just to give you some examples, if you look at our network cost, excluding CAT lease cost that we book, in 3 years, the cost went up by 11.3% on a CAGR basis. But this is the time in last 3 years, we expanded our network significantly. If you look at just the numbers, our base stations in this period number of base stations went up by 30%. So 30% increase in the base stations resulted in a 11.3% growth. Catalyst came in 2018 for the first time. Regulatory that we spoke about, we have been shifting our customers from dtac to DTN and also optimizing our traffic mix and relating to and finally the end of concession and remedy resulted in a close to 20% reduction in regulatory cost on a 3-year CAGR basis. And most heartening was the sales and marketing cost, 11.4% reduction over a 3-year CAGR period. Personal cost, that number that you see, minus 3.4%, is the headcount, 3 years headcount reduction that we have already seen. Now, this is again past. What has already been factored in, what you have seen in our numbers. So what is changing now? I'll just focus on, again, not all the items. The big ticket items, for example, network. We believe that we still have network expansion currently going on. We don't see that network cost going down in that sense, but then we are looking at opportunities for exploring tower sharing and tower sharing partnership and also the infrastructure sharing. I think this is important for all of you to understand that in Thailand, you know it already that the sharing percentage is very low. This is almost like, to a point, this will become a big barrier to 5G adoption going forward. So I think there will be a natural process, market process by which this will be addressed. We will be definitely the one which will always be at the forefront of accepting this, that sharing is important and sharing creates value for all operators. So this is something that we'll be focusing a lot. CAT lease cost, to give a little bit more flavor to this. So you see that we have a baseline of about annualized cost of 3 billion on this, but it has basically 2 elements, which is the tower, the cost for tower, and then cost for other resources that you take on lease. For example, fiber, transmission, the equipments, some of the RAN equipments that we take from them. So overall bucket is 3 billion. This is one line item that definitely will be on a decline. Because other than tower, and also within the tower, the number of slots that we use, depending on how we plan to roll out, we can say that we have been optimizing and we'll keep optimizing. Everything else, for example, the equipment rental, the fiber, transmission, we have clear plans, and we have been already doing some work on this to make sure that we don't need to incur this cost over a long period of time. Regulatory, I think we have done this. We don't see much changes in this line. This will only be a kind of a flat as a percentage to revenue going forward. Sales and marketing. I think our digitization effort in this has paid off, and we still believe there are a lot of opportunities in driving self-care and our adoption of apps and every other way the customers interact with us through digital channels. This is a very natural phenomenon. All operators are already experiencing that. The more and more this happens, there will be opportunity to rationalize our sales and marketing cost as well. And last but not the least, personal. I think it's very normal, very natural that we will be more and more lean in future, and that through the process of looking at our workforce, what's the right sizing of the workforce. So a little bit what you have seen so far is the revenue development for the past and what we see for future, and then cost. We demonstrated that we have done quite well in the past, and you also see that almost short of telling you how the numbers would look like, directionally we are telling you these are the areas that we will definitely see that cost levels will go down in future. You have seen this before. We have CapEx levels which has gone up, and our CapEx levels have been around 24 to 25% of service revenue excluding interconnect over a long period of time. Despite high CapEx, our operating cash flow has been positive, and that's been positive over a long period of time too. Net debt is inching upwards, but our net debt to EBITDA is still maintained at a very healthy level. More on the capital management. In terms of debt funding, if you look back, our debt maturity profile, you try to manage to ensure or to manage our refinancing risk. So we have a profile which we believe we are comfortable with. And then we also have that our annual credit rating exercise, which TRIS does every year, and then only in April they finished and they have affirmed a rating of AA, which is a stable outlook for dtac. In terms of leverage, you already know that we have one-off settlement with CAT that some payment has already happened actually in Q2, but there are more payments coming in. So 9.5 billion or so 9 billion is what you need to actually pay as a cash out from us to CAT. Along with that, the spectrum payments that are coming due, that's quite natural that the net debt to EBITDA level is expected to increase. But what we will aim for is to keep the net debt to EBITDA below 3, and this is clearly one ambition that we have. Dividend policy remains unchanged. It's minimum 50% of the company's profit after tax, and also paid out, at least intention to pay out semi-annually. Now we come to the guidance. So first I talk about the numbers, and I'll try to give a little bit of more rationale to those numbers. So the first is on service revenue, excluding interconnect. We are guiding now low single-digit decline year over year. What's the rationale? Now, what we see and what we expect to grow every single quarter from now, sequentially. However, as a management, we believe the year-over-year growth could potentially come in Q4. Remember what I said, our January number was very, very low, and that has reset our revenue numbers at a very low level. And so we are climbing, as you have seen, our February number was better than January, March number was better than February, but we are climbing. But climbing up is what the sequential growth will lead to, but looking at year over year, it's going to be Q4. And apart from everything, I also mentioned about, just to repeat again, the efforts to ensure best customer experience, also a sustainable revenue growth, sometimes leads to some short-term revenue correction. The CPA or the value-added services cleanup that we have done is a reflection of that as well. On EBITDA, we are guiding 24 to 25 billion. And this is also a result of, you see the Q1 number, which reflects fully loaded cost, the new cost baseline. And also, we want to be competitive in our sales and marketing cost. Remember, this is a turnaround year, so we don't want to be uncompetitive. So keeping a headroom for that, and also potentially keeping a headroom for a 2G sunset that you heard about before, that's all been factored in this 24 to 25 billion EBITDA that we are now guiding. CapEx remains unchanged. So that's on the guidance for 2019. So a little bit more on medium-term ambition for dtac. Starting with revenue, it's clearly our ambition, again, to grow and grow low single-digit, broadly in line with the industry growth that we are expecting going forward. On EBITDA, ambition to grow EBITDA higher than the revenue growth. That's what we definitely will drive, and that will come more from the cost efficiencies and the cost agenda and long-term structural cost initiatives that you have started should drive that. CapEx is the one which I have to admit at this stage we are still working out, but it is broadly in line with what we believe will be in and around 2019 level. But our ambition is clearly quality and coverage at par with the competition. That's the clear ambition. With that, I've finished the finance update, and then I will invite Kun Alex to come and summarize before we open up for Q&A.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kundilip. But I want to say a big thanks to the whole management team. At least I feel you have done a fantastic job. And to feel your passion makes me very, very proud. But I also want to say thanks to the team who works behind the scene. You can imagine that preparing this is always quite of a challenge, and we wanted to do it really good for you. And I hope, and I say a big thanks to you, it was great work you have done. So please, a little bit of applause for our team behind the scene. But now it's time to recap a little bit, just to kind of, summarize why we do believe that we are on a turnaround road. So you have learned from Kundilip, end of concession hit us harder than expected. And that actually made the bottom line drop. So that was a bit what hit us in January. So if you would have been here in January, you would have felt a very different vibe. But since then, we've been focused so much on driving, on the one hand, the network, but also everything else in the performance that we now see gradually that we are improving on all KPIs. On all KPIs. And that's true for May, for April and May as well, and June. So this gradual growth will bring us to finally grow in Q4 and then persistently over the next years. That's what we are really going for. But maybe just to remind you of some of the numbers. I want to go first to NPS, to our network. We know that we have a very strong brand with a very emotional connect, which we'll work on for the next years to come. But we need also those functional benefits, those who were missing compared to competition. These were the reasons why we are lacking in the last years. Now, together with such a passionate CTO, we will drive the network. And we've seen that the investments we have done, the work we have done, changing the way we look at the network, much more customer-centric, has increased our network NPS dramatically. It's doubled now. And that's the voice of our customers. That's what they tell us. And anything we want to do in the market, 75% of why customers choose an operator or leave an operator is driven by the network experience. So we will keep on building that network experience for this consistent, unbuffered video experience nationwide in Thailand. So network stays and will be always important, and we won't stop improving. Right, Kumpratet? Good. The biggest loss for us in the past years was prepaid. We somehow lost this market. We just left it out for good reasons, because there were external factors that told us, better leave your fingers away from it because it's not value creating. But now things are rationalizing, and we know we want to be part of this. We're fighting hard. I mean, if I just listen, and we have a revenue meeting every morning where we meet, we talk, and you can imagine the days in December and January were not really pleasant. But now, this morning, our prepaid team was actually presenting, and the way they presented was very different to what we experienced in the last month. And to just give you a little bit of an idea, Kundilip and me had the great pleasure last week to visit one of our marketing teams and sales team to congratulate them for their real success. You can't imagine, there were people in tears. They've been beaten up for a long, long time. And now seeing that things are really working, you can't imagine how good it is for every one of us. So prepaid stabilization, we really see it, and we even know that we can do better because we have a team who can really drive it. Postpaid, we have always been good, but now improving net adds by 31% quarter on quarter. December and January was especially also difficult for postpaid because that net negative or this bad network experience during the transition created a lot of churn. People didn't believe in us anymore. But now, because the experience is improving. And because we've been so honestly telling that we will improve, people are coming back. And even the ones, I mean, the churn is really going down. So net adds stabilization on postpaid for me is a very, very important sign. And I also can tell you it's going on this year. We know it. And to finish, B2B, we do believe it is a great opportunity for us to grow, because in this market, you have others, they're doing a lot of complex things. We have worked the last year to set the baseline, to really create the right tools, but also mobilize a fantastic team that is very dedicated. And I'm very sure that in the SME market, there's a need for an operator like us, who is simple, honest, and who is also very human. So we believe in our turnaround. We see very positive indications. And what I'm most proud of, we have not only a very good management team, but a super motivated dtac people. Thank you very much. I forgot nearly, sorry. Yeah, sorry, nearly forgot it. Because we're talking so much about our turnaround, but we're working on the future as well. So we don't give up. We know we have to go beyond what we have told you. So we're working now on a product that is called dtac at Home, which will allow you to use our fantastic wireless 2300 network in your home environment at your maximum convenience, without having any kind of cables and whatever, but just using it. So a real convenient product at a good competitive price. So we are now testing that. So we're in the testing phase. And the first feedbacks we get from our customers are very promising. So hopefully we can tell you more in a few months to come. EV connectivity platform. We are looking into new business models. We are looking into a new role we can have in the market, being kind of, a platform player. So this is more for us a trial to find out what can be the future role of us. We know we have to constantly transform ourselves. So this is one of the areas where we're testing, trying, and learning. So also one of the promising parts. But for sure, we're also looking into 5G. Maybe we are not as loudly talking about 5G than others, but the difference is we're really doing it. On the network side, you've learned Prepaid believes we are most prepared. Let's see. But at least we're also looking into what can be the business models and how can we get, connected and work in an ecosystem that is really sustainable. So there's a lot we are doing beyond what we have been telling you today, but we need to have another story for the next time. So thank you very much. Kop kun ka, sabatika. Please, come. And now I'm going to invite my colleagues for the Q&A. So we just get settled. So we also created that nice atmosphere so that the questions will be also nicer, isn't it the case?
Let's hope so. So, yeah, can we have the microphone, please? Okay. Yeah, you start. I think you just introduce yourself and then you ask your questions.
Hi, this is Tapana from Deutsche Bank, Thailand. So I do have 3 questions. I don't know if they're going to be nice questions, but I think they're pretty relevant. So let's start with the prepaid unlimited. So in your presentation, you said that the unlimited plans are apparently off the market as of May. Now, one of your competitor continually claim they have a lot of capacity up in the Northeast, and they have a lot of ambitions up in the upcountry area. So, what is there a risk that this unlimited prepaid will come back, and that will end up maybe spoiling your plans to recapture the prepaid market? So that's my first one. I don't know if you want me to continue, or we'll go one at a time.
One at a time, okay.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah, that's a good question. And I think I repeat what I said, that the expecting rational behavior in telecom sometimes probably is a little bit of too much of a ask. But what we see in the market today is what we have explained to you is all operators actually have removed unlimited prepaid products, acquisition products. And also the postpaid products, maybe I forgot to mention you, the postpaid unlimited exists today, but at a price point, at least we are very comfortable. Yeah, it's very, very high price point. But whether it will come back or not, I think it's very difficult for us to predict. I know exactly what you are meaning about specific geography. I think it has always been like that. It starts with a specific geography and then it spreads around. Yeah. I mean, I can only say that this is what we see now, but who knows future? So what we see is what we are telling you now, that yes, right now, and you don't see that also in many markets, that industry moving back, or even in the unlimited postpaid price point, if you see that actually prices gone up, yeah, which I would say I would like to see this more as a glass half full than the glass half empty. Yeah.
Okay, and second question may be related. As you know, a new spectrum is about to enter the playing field, the 700. Some of your competitors is more keen to get it than others, but that particular competitor also has a lot of low band already. So it seems like if, let's say, I'll say the name True or AIS ends up getting those spectrums for whatever reason they need to get it for, it also means that they now will have a lot more low band spectrum going forward. Whereas dtac right now, I guess 900 will be your key low band. So how do we address this growing parity in the low band portfolio? And I think it's important because obviously if your plan is to go for prepaid, then the low band could be a key component in this.
So to be very open, we can't talk about 700 now because we are in a silent period. But we invite you to look at the 19th. I think that's the time when it will be communicated. So that's the time when we're going to talk about 700. So unfortunately, I must tell you, it's not the time to talk about 700. Okay. But fundamentally, yes, for sure, there's a low band need more with us than with the others. But the densification of 2100 and the 900 also catered for that. So we are going to just evaluate it and then decide until the 19th.
Okay. And my final question is about the enterprise business, your ambition to try to get your fair share of market share, I guess, which I presume to be at least 1/3 of the 22 billion. Now, I'm not an expert in the enterprise business, but I understand that a lot of the advantages that your competitor have is that they have a fixed broadband network or fixed line going into those offices, and then they can bundle mobile packages to their customer, and they already have established relationships, so it's easy for them to upsell their product. How would you go about competing or taking market share from these particular competitors?
Yeah, so as I mentioned to you that the opportunity we showed was addressable mobile only, so that does not include fixed. And the approach we're taking, we totally understand that the B2B market is very complicated and there are lots of different solutions, but our approach is a very focused approach. It's to go after the mobile only, and we'll try our best to go for fair share through a simplified product portfolio approach.
And sorry, does that also involve cutting prices in order to?
I don't want to comment on cutting prices, but the approach we've taken right now is to be very simple, very focused, and solve the customer needs, which are more around, they worry too much about their bill, so we're going with a worry-free sort of a portfolio. Prices are very competitive, and it's not just a price approach. It's a simplified product portfolio approach, easy to use with no hassles, and try to look at the customer needs and solve it through a modular, almost like a business in a box over time approach.
Okay, thank you.
He has questions.
I'm Patrick from Brevin Howard. 2 questions, if I may, focused a bit on your medium-term ambitions. I mean, if we talk about revenue growth from a customer segmentation perspective, you mentioned that you want to grow above market for enterprise. You've been strong in postpaid. Does that mean that structurally you think you'll always be weak in prepaid? Is that why you've guided for inline revenue growth with the sector for your medium-term ambition?
You have one question, or so shall I address this first?
Sure.
Yeah, I think, as I said, it's ambition. Yeah, and ambition comes from the drivers that you have seen. Postpaid has been our major source of growth in the past. Enterprise, and the B2B and the mid segment that Rajiv spoke about, we barely participated. So those are clearly, as you rightly pointed out. But that is this segment is very small. So even if you double the revenue, it's still very small compared to the overall revenue stream. I think what you will see in prepaid of phases, I think what you have seen, probably the presentation that, the slide that Kun Alex shown, we are right now, till Q2, I think we are going through the stabilization phase. And we expect the key driver for future growth will be coming from that you are able to stabilize and then turn positive in our prepaid net adds. So I don't see that a conflict with the overall industry growth, because for us, it's a step up because we have been losing. So once we start retaining our customers, even in not acquiring from others, that itself is a step up in our revenue. So I believe prepaid will play a major role going forward, and that's very much part of the guidance that, or the ambition, not really a guidance. I mean, it's an ambition that we have factored in for a medium term.
Thanks for that. I guess second part of my question is more on sector revenue growth. Just if you could talk a bit about 5G and how, or at least what that means for overall sector revenues. Do you see that as an opportunity for the sector to re-accelerate again? Or do you think single-digit revenue growth is here to stay, factoring in what you've mentioned previously about competitive pressures?
So maybe I take it, but I mean, you can raise that question to a lot of people. I think they're much brighter than me, and none of them can give you a real answer. So I think we do believe that 5G will have an impact, and we will see an increase in data for sure. I think the monetization will come a lot also from the B2B market. So we will see that in the B2B business, the usage will increase because we'll see also different business models. But also on the consumer side, I think there's still growth opportunity. But how big it's going to be, I mean, all of us are still struggling in designing the 5G story. I think it's all about learning. And if I remember, I was part of writing a 3G business case many, many years ago. And what we wrote into that case completely worked out totally different. So I think for my part, I still believe this industry, it's so fundamental, that the whole digitalization that is coming, that it's so fundamental that we deliver connectivity, consistent connectivity. It's getting more and more important, so there will also be growth. That's my belief.
Next questions, please.
Hi, Arthur Pineda from Citi. 2 questions, please. Firstly, I'm just wondering, how do you see your competitors as reacting with your improved network? And how does that prompt you to respond accordingly? clearly over the last few years, one of your competitors, particularly True, has been growing at the expense of your own market share. If you're able to protect that, does that entice them to react, and does that entice you to react accordingly? I have a second question as well. Maybe I'll wait after that.
Yeah, I think, so for us, I think on the competitive part of the competitive network, and then you were talking about competitive market. On the competitive network, I don't want to repeat what we said. I think we are a bit of a catch-up mode for some time now, and we continue to do that. On the market side, yes, you are right. I think till 2017, yeah, the operator that you mentioned, their gain probably come both from number one and us. It's not only from us. So it's you know, the number one operator also lost, and we also lost. But in 2018 was very different, and very different because 2018 was a very different year for us as well. Going forward, what we can, I mean, by now, if you get that sense, then we're happy. That one thing for sure, that we would be competitive. Doesn't mean that we are going to work on prices. Doesn't mean that we are going to be increasing spends, because as you realize that, you know, the competition spends levels are probably unsustainable, and that's why you already see the Q1 numbers. It's showing quite a bit of decline. Somehow, I think it prevails that probably it takes longer in some markets than in other markets. We believe that that's what is going to happen. We believe in the value, and then we will keep focusing on the value. But it is fair to say that, you know, with the competitive network that we are building or in the process of getting there, and with the positioning that we spoke about, our brand and everything that you have seen, I think we see that our customers will find more and more reasons to stay with us than looking outside. That itself is a big, big win for us. And then who knows, you know, we become quite attractive for others to come and experience as the customers that have left us, and then come and see, because our network is actually getting better. So I think I would like to answer that through that process, rather than thinking that, you know, how do we react on a more transaction basis to competition, because we are here and we are here for long, and we want to see that we improve value for all stakeholders over a long period of time.
So maybe just add up to this. We have a lot of emotional benefits. We see in all our market research that customers are really attached to us all over the place in Thailand, but we miss the functional ones. So building the network, I think we have all role to play in this market to win customers and also keep them.
Thanks.
You have one more question?
Yes,
please.
just a second question with regard to the revenue outlook. You've mentioned you're looking to grow alongside the market over the long run with low single-digit growth. Given that your cost base has been growing quite dramatically, added spectrum on the auction, plus TOT, plus potentially 700 if that ever materializes, how do we see the revenue outlook as sustainable? I mean, can you survive, can you grow income with this kind of revenue trajectory?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to delink revenue growth with the cost outlook. Yeah? Cost outlook is cost outlook. I think all operators would look at cost the way they look at cost. And we have been, as I mentioned to you, as I have shown you, that we have been extremely disciplined when it comes to cost, and we have demonstrated that. That doesn't go away, and that will remain. I think revenue drivers, the revenue uplift is coming from a very different drivers. As I explained to you, our over a long period of time, our sustained the customer loss, which has resulted into a revenue loss or a more flat revenue, despite our postpaid growing and our ability to maintain postpaid market share in a market where we have lost market share. Because if you understand the fundamental drivers which will improve our revenue over a midterm, then none of these are actually applicable. I think we'll still focus on our cost, and we don't see any linkages there. Now, you mentioned about cost changes. I think one major element of cost changes is also our TOT arrangement. And remember, TOT arrangement is a roaming arrangement, is also the replacement of a buying of a spectrum. You know, we potentially could buy a spectrum or we roam. So you need to look at that cost also in line with a spectrum point of view. So it's a roaming arrangement, but the alternate could have been that we buy spectrum and probably doesn't even impact EBITDA. It would have come as more as a DNA. But that's an option we, of course, choose for a roaming cost, and that's how we book it. And major cost of our cost increases come in 2018, predominantly from TOT. And CAT cost increase that you have seen, a 3 billion cost base in 1 year, that's not going to be there at that level over a long period of time. We definitely believe that's going to be coming down because a lot is also driven by the equipment that we lease from them. Those are agreements that we can exit anytime we want. It's in our benefit that we continue now, but there would be a time that we will find our ways to get out of this. Yeah. So I hope that answers your questions.
Thank you. I'm dtac from Patra Securities. I have 4 questions. I guess I go one by one. It's very easy questions. The first one of your slide presentation, you forecast that the sector revenue growth would somewhat accelerate in 2020 because in the first quarter it grew by only 0.9% year on year, and then you forecast the low single-digit growth in 2020. Why do you believe that the growth would accelerate? Because from my point of view, it looks like the market is saturating because, you know, the 4G penetration rate, it's hitting 100%. In other developing market, the mobile phone market doesn't grow anymore. What made you positive that we would see acceleration in the growth for the whole sector?
Okay. First of all, 4G penetration have not reached 100%. If you would have seen our numbers of Q1, we have roughly 50% of our base in 4G. Yeah? I don't know the industry number for other operators, but I would imagine this will not be very different. So, which actually I consider this as an opportunity, despite, as Kun Alex mentioned, that 10 GB per customer per month in Thailand is very high compared to many markets. But this is what we have been seeing, and we always got it wrong when projecting growth. The amount of contents which are coming in and the amount of high quality contents are coming in, the amount of, especially the customers who are using, for example, our 2300 TDD, the quality of contents they are able to use, I think they consume more data. So first of all, I think we believe that there is a lot of opportunities for 4G penetration to go beyond what we are today. And within that, we also see our 2300 upgrade that we have been doing for some time now. That also has an opportunity, as our CMO Kun Liren was showing, that customers who are using within 4G, TDD versus non-TDD has a 15% ARPU difference. So that is also another factor. So that's first part. Second part to this is, yes, you have observed it very correctly. 2 things. One is, in 2019, all operators will be, these numbers are the numbers that all operators will report. And as you know, Thailand has adopted TFRS 15 from starting from January 2019. And TFRS 15 does, because this revenue is service revenue excluding interconnect, doesn't include the device revenue. So there is a shift between device and the service revenue, which will reduce the year-over-year growth in 2019, a little bit subdued. But then it again comes back to the growth story that we're talking about. Thirdly, you may consider, you may not consider, I think with dtac, the position that we are taking and that we are in today, we are going to be also expanding. We have not been growing. We are saying we are going to grow. Our growth also will potentially address some of the growth trajectory that we are showing in our card. But these are all estimates. As you have seen, these are all in dotted line. As I think, like you estimate, we also estimated this is how it's going to be. But I hope you have a good explanation for 2019 dip.
Okay, thank you. Second question, you obtained the 900 megahertz since December of last year. but you will not start investing on that spectrum until the fourth quarter of this year. So 1 year. Why do you wait? Because number one, my understanding, rightly or wrongly, is that you are losing customer in the rural area, which can be covered by the 900 megahertz. Number two, with your balance sheet, you can undertake both 2,300 and 900 megahertz at the same time.
I will try to address this, and then if not fully, then I will ask Khun Pratet. We can do it very quickly if we want, but you need to look at the background of the numbers that you have seen. The 2018 dtac rollout has been unprecedented, has never happened in the history of dtac. The number of towers that you rolled out, and the number of base stations that you have rolled out at such a short period of time, which also, I think we mentioned it before, that which also meant that we needed time to fine-tune our network. I think this is almost like open heart surgery, that if you see the number of base stations that coming on the top of that we had. So we believe the strategy that we have taken is to first optimize. Even we saw that we have put out 2,300 base stations, but the quality is still not up to the mark. And this is happening at a time when there are several things that are going on. If you look at our frequency rebalancing that we are doing, taking out 1,800 and putting 2,300, right? So we needed more time, number one, which means that this is very much part of our clear strategy. First, stabilize. First, make it better where you are already present. Second thing is that we have time to do that. And if your question is around how you're strategizing our 900 rollout, I think we believe there are two approaches. One approach is to replace where we are today. But purely from a financial gain point of view, I think the more we can delay that, it is better, because it doesn't really give anything different to the customers. It's the same. You're replacing 900 with 900 with 850. But our approach would be probably we will see how we can leverage the maximum gain on customer experience, as you are saying, expanding, going beyond where today. And then, because this cannot be done in isolation, you have to do it by area by area, zone by zone, and also we have 3 of our equipment suppliers to make sure that we optimize that. So trust us that we have a very clear plan to maximize this to the benefit of our customers and finally to our all stakeholders. Khun Pratet, you want to add? Yeah.
But also growing coverage.
Yeah, and also grow on coverage. And also not to mention, though I think we are on silent period, because there is also something which is, we have not closed yet at what does 700 mean? Positive, negative. Negative, fine, doesn't change anything, but if it is positive, if it comes out to be something that we can look at, we don't know yet, but that could also potentially give a different approach to this. So trust us, maybe you'll hear a lot about this in the next quarter. Yeah?
Yeah, I can add. Just like what Kunil was saying, this is all about the prioritization. If you remember, one of those charts that we presented, earlier on, last year was a year of change. There had been many changes on the spectrum portfolio. We had to turn off the major part of our spectrum, that is 1800. So the first priority was that, right? We have to roll out 2.3 as fast as we could so that we have the capacity replacement when we turn off the 1800, right? Now the 850 has to be turned off, not turned off really, reducing from 10 megahertz to 5 megahertz. That has some impact, but not as much as the 1800 that we have to turn off pretty much entirely. So the effect of the 850 was mitigated through the identification that we've been preparing for the past 2 years. So that was there. Now, second part is that if we follow the development of the 850 and 900 in the last year, we would notice that the rollout of the 900, that was the refarming. People use the word refarming, turning the 850 into 900. And that has some complication on the interference part. So that means that on the rollout of the 900, we have to do in synchronization with cooperation from parties in the industry. That could not be done on a standalone basis. So that is why this needs to be coordinated at the industry level.
So when you mean you prioritize 1,800 and 2.3 over 900 because you mean prioritize in terms of capacity to expand, right? Not prioritize in terms of balance sheet.
Oh no, prioritize in terms of the rollout activities that we're doing, because like
Right.
the network could sustain so much of the changes in a short period of time. Just like what
Right.
we're saying, 13,000 sites in 8 months or whatever, that is quite a huge change already.
Right. Okay. Understood. Thank you. The third question, you did mention briefly about the fixed wireless network, and I believe a few local players talk about it this morning. I'm not sure if you then can discuss it at the current moment. I'm wondering what would be the area of focus, because you use 2.3 to offer the fixed wireless, and by nature the 2.3 it's good for the urban, not so good for the rural area. But at the same time, if you look at the fixed broadband penetration, I believe in the urban area it's already 70% or more. So you would focus on the urban or on the rural area?
Okay, I think what Kunalex mentioned is about probably more on priority. It's not that 2.3 is the only way or the only frequency that we can use. I think we will be frequency neutral depending on the capacity. So it's more of a function of capacity. So wherever we have capacity, we can do that. So whether it's urban or rural. So yeah, 2.3 probably is an example and probably will be dominant part of this, but not necessarily only 2.3.
Right. Okay. Understood. The last one, it's a big picture questions. Telecom, it's a scale business, because let's say if all three of you bid for decided to acquire the 700 megahertz, everyone pay the same price, and then the network capex would be roughly the same. The marketing cost in absolute amount of the three operators are roughly the same. So that gives the biggest operator, which is advanced info service, the advantage because they have the scale. So as the number 3 operator, what can you do to reduce that disadvantage for the lack of scale?
It's a very good question, but I think why do we believe we can win back in the market? And I come back to what I've said before. I mean, we have lost, I can say, millions of customers over the last years, but those millions of customers have gone to other operators, but they still feel very much attached to dtac. They believe us because we are more trustworthy. We give them offers they can believe in. It's easy to deal with us, and we are more human than the others. And this market sees so much involvement of people. So they really choose an operator by a lot of reasons. Some of them are very emotional and others are functional. So I do believe just if we address only those customers we have lost over the last years, and we will do that, I promise, we have a good reason to win back. And we see that already. So we're looking into our data and we see that a lot of customers are gradually coming back to dtac.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Piyush from HSBC. 2 questions. Firstly, just on 900 taking the extension, if you can talk about your technology rollout plan on 900 and how much would be the addressable market would increase once you have rolled out full 900 in terms of your coverage, like in terms of the addressable opportunity, new opportunity in 900. Secondly, on 2G shutdown, how much of your revenue pool is still coming from 2G customers, and what preemptive steps we are taking to mitigate the impact when the shutdown eventually happens sometime in 3rd quarter?
Okay, I will try to address both the questions, and if I'll take Kun Pratep's help on 900 if required. On 2G shutdown, I think we are in a good position, probably because that we have been driving this very, very strongly in 2018. Compared to other operators who have gone past this long back as part of their end of concession, for us it's like we see this almost in continuation of what we have been doing till 15th of September in terms of moving our customers, 2G customers to our from dtac to DTN. So here I want to highlight two things. One, this is very different if you are trying to see, what's going to happen. I think what you have to look at is this is an industry decision. This is driven by regulator, which will also ensure that the customers would know that if they don't have upgraded device through a little bit of subsidy or through some promotions, they will have problem in connecting. So I think the natural forces will drive them to do more. From our side, we have been driving it very, very close. This is one of our key elements, not from a cost point of view. We don't worry too much about that part, although that also helps us. But I think more to ensure that we don't lose our revenue base. And this is one of the key priority that we have been driving. And for us, it's easier because we are continuing. Coming to your 950 questions, 900 rollout. I think, see, we have, we have 850 and we had 1800. Both we have these radio equipments we are currently using, taking it from CAT. So there are several options that we have now. How do you roll out? We can look at just a replacement as a strategy, which doesn't increase the revenue pool, not in great detail, but although we believe that there is a bit of a, I think 900 will have antenna higher, and then you can get more traction, but that's not the bigger. The bigger element is the coverage expansion. I cannot quantify that part, but it is sufficient to say that it's not small. It's still a coverage increase, which in deep rural and probably semi-rural, where we did not find business case to put up a 2100 site before, because the coverage the number of population that you cover through 2100 is much lesser. So I'm not quantifying the number to you, but you can understand this is still sizable for us, because we in deep rural and semi-rural, we are much below competition. But it's not a huge population, also you have to understand, because those are the areas where it's not densely populated, and that's why we stayed away from densification, right? Yes, it is an opportunity, and we'll definitely, as part of, we have a plan to cover that. But I'm not able to quantify you that number yet.
On the technology part, I think that was one of the questions that you had. The rollout of the 900 would then be the mixture of the 3G plus 4G. Yeah, that way we believe the benefit of that band could be maximized. Just like what Kunilip was saying before, around 50% of our base has 4G devices. So that means the other 50 doesn't, right? So when we do the rollout, we would choose the place where people have the devices to support the network. So that means that most likely in the rural area or the suburban area would then be 3G. And in the city or in urban area or suburban area where we have a pretty strong network already, the 3G is densified and everything, we probably would deploy 4G to improve the 4G experience indoor and elsewhere and capacity as well. So that would then be the plan.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, thank you. This is Pisut from Kasikorn Securities. I have 3 questions. The first one is on the B2B business. You mentioned about the fair shares. Could you please tell us more about the timeline when you have that, and what about the EBITDA margin of this business?
Timeline and the EBITDA margin. Okay. On timeline, I think this will be part of the medium-term outlook that we have given. It's part of that. So it's not 2019. It's potentially 2021. On EBITDA margin, what I can tell you is the incremental cost of this business is not not very high. So potentially incremental EBITDA on this business is higher than our normal EBITDA. Yeah, as long as we can support with the capacity that we have. So it's actually EBITDA accretive on an incremental basis.
Okay, my second question is on the 700 megahertz. Could you please share with us that what is the portion of your 4G customers holding 4G 700 megahertz devices?
Yeah, I think we will avoid talking about this. Our apologies. Also for the simple reason that we are in the middle of this and we are in a silent period, we don't talk about it, and also for the competitive reasons. Because that's a key element in the valuation of 700. So we are in the process of 700 valuation. We will avoid talking about this right now, but of course we will talk about this in case it is required in future.
And my last question is that, from my experience, dtac changes CEO every 3 to 4 years, which is, unlike your competitors. Do you think this sort of management rotations may, cause the problem of dtac again in the futures, and how can you fix it?
Okay, I think I take this question. First, I really fell in love with Thailand. I fell in love with dtac, so I have no reason to leave, especially if the numbers are developing as they have developed since February. I do believe there's always a positive and negative part. So my term is more long-term, so I really want to stay here. I'm at the end of my career phase, unfortunately, so I'm quite old already. But I want to stay as long as I can. But there's always a positive and a negative part. I mean, being in a company for 20, 30 years, you also lose a bit the outside perspective. You question things differently. So I think coming in as a new CEO also gives you the opportunity to kind of, challenge a bit more and maybe bring a different momentum in. So I don't think that you need to stay there for 20, 30 years, or there's always advantages and disadvantages. I feel what we're doing now would be more difficult if I would have been here the last 5 years. But I for sure want to stay the next 5 years because I want to also cherish what we have been going through the last year.
ขอบคุณครับ
No more questions?
Okay, no more questions, then shall we say thank you very much? And
thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.